So now, having established that an electron is two vortices of Planck lengths spinning clockwise, counterclockwise, or counterclockwise, clockwise, depending on the positioning and the orientation of the observer, you can then understand that in hydrogen you have the Janus particle of the electron. So a Janus particle is really a sided particle, one side having a different property from the other side. So in a sense, the Earth is a Janus particle as well, because on one side it's facing the sun and the other side is actually in the dark, nighttime, daytime. Okay, so the electron as the Janus particle has within it a wavelength lambda, and the radius is equal to the Planck length, and it spins clockwise or counterclockwise, whether it is going that way and that way. And it's the action between the wave of energy from the Planck length electron, negative / positive spin. So we've established the concept of spin within an electron, creating these waves of energy coming out. Now this is really where I see an important sequence of numbers, the Fibonacci sequence, as well as the Lewis sequence. Comes from. So we talk about the phi, or the golden circle ratio. Okay. So you can look up exactly what that number is and how to calculate it, but it comes from the Fibonacci sequence of numbers of 0, 1, 1. So to derive the Fibonacci sequence is very simple. You just add the previous two numbers together. 1 plus 1 equals 2, 1 plus 2 equals 3, 2 plus 3 equals 5, 5 plus 3 equals 8, 5 and 8, 13, and so on. Now, the ratio of 1 divided by 1 is 1, 1 divided by 2, or 2 divided by 1 is 2, 3 divided by 2, 5 divided by 3, 8 divided by 5, 13 divided by 8. This is where you get phi. That's where it comes from. It's a ratio between these two numbers that have been added together to give the golden circle ratio. So this is present within biology and a fundamental force within the energy state of the universe. Now, if we go, that's a Planck length, that's a Planck length, all of a sudden we go, okay, 2 Planck lengths equals an electron. Okay, 1 Planck length next to an electron gives 3 Planck lengths. So we can start to put golden circle ratio into the geometry of Einstein's equation and electron, connecting this number series to a physical reality based on science that talks about the Planck length, talks about what an electron is, how geometry of spin generates a series of numbers. So what I'm really doing is creating a way of interacting between spiritual knowledge, which is very ancient, and scientific knowledge, which has been based on measurement, understanding the flaws associated with measurement regarding that quantum state, and really looking at ways of trying to integrate these different positions of knowledge into a harmonious kind of connectivity, so that we can both see both sides of the story, understanding that the approaches used are different, but the outcomes are the same. Okay, so let's get back to hydrogen. Hydrogen has, well, if we talk about Planck length equals 1, and an electron equals 2. Okay, hydrogen has 4 electrons. Okay, so that is hydrogen. The proton equaling 3, the electron equaling 1. So 4. Okay, so hydrogen can be in the geometry of asymmetry or in the geometry of symmetry. This is hydrogen, the quantum symmetry state. Which equals 0 charge and 0 mass. Okay, so it's 2 photons. 2 photons. Okay, so hydrogen, an electron, a photon equals 2 electrons. Hydrogen two photons. So here we have a new model based on inverse square law relationships. Once you understand that geometric symmetry that's present within the atom, you can understand how to see wavelengths of the positron and electron within the atom itself based on the distance that they are apart, where the wavelength is actually through the center or in the nucleus, where it's 0 again, right? So the radius is half on the electron side of the atom and half on the side of the positron side of the atom. So if the nucleus is here, that's the radius, that's where the electron is. This is the radius, and that's where the positron is. Where you have, you know, in this case, pointing out, negative, negative, positive, positive. So when we understand that this is the wavelength, and here is the nucleus, you know, we have, in a sense, developed a model of yin-yang. I chain 64 hexagrams. C6. I have been really developing a model which takes science back to the future. Understanding that I will show you that the bubbles have that geometry within them. So I will show you some video footage how this is a bond of light that holds that together. There's the paired electrons in the photon within this model, and we can see how that's released. So there are aspects that science currently doesn't know, getting the stability, instability in atoms due to the symmetry or asymmetry. The interesting aspect, okay, I'll talk about tritium, is we know it's unstable, we know it has a half-life, we know what that half-life is. So let's look at the geometry of tritium. Okay, tritium has 2 neutrons, 1 proton. So it's also got 2 positrons, and it's got 1 electron. We know that equals 6e, that's 3e, so 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So how's that? 6, 9, 10, 11, 12. So equals 12 electrons. Oh, okay. So here we have a neutron and a proton. We're going to draw that. And we know that we can draw the other neutron. Okay, so here we have photon pairs, another photon pair, but lo and behold, we have instability. Okay, so we also have the electron, positron, and another positron. So that's the electron, positron, positron. So this is linked to this to this, through that center point. Okay, so the wavelength is related to the distance through the nucleus of the atom, equaling the equivalent black hole, okay, or the vanishing point. So when we see the geometry of symmetry within the structure of the atom, then we can start understanding stability and instability. So tritium has a half-life of how long it is stable for, and then it emits radiation. Okay. So we have the idea of hydrogen equaling 4, deuterium equaling 8, tritium equaling 12. Photon equaling 2, an electron equaling 1, Planck length equaling half, negative half. So we can start to play around with the numbers and look at how things are put together. Before I said that the electron was 2, photon was 2 electrons, so it's 4, hydrogen's 8, deuterium therefore would be 16, and 8 more would be 24 if we were discussing Planck lengths, where Planck length equals 1. So I'm not saying there is a right or a wrong way of viewing this. I'm saying you play with the numbers, see what you come up with, and see what makes sense to you based on your knowledge of inverse square law relationship, symmetry, asymmetry, geometry within the structure of an atom.